education in civil engineering before taking a doctorate in environmental engineering. He has done management programs in very established American universities in Chicago, Cornell, and Yale. He's not only a banker, but I would say a lot of us would like to be in his shoes. He's actually quite a great, accomplished academic. He's written over 200 articles and 8 books. Hello, that's more than I've ever written so far. So that's most impressive, I must say. Wonderful. You better join. You got a second career in academia. And thirdly, in recognition of his banking and environmental work, Dr. Lohani has received several doctorate degrees from the University of Griffith, the University of Cordilleras in the Philippines, the Angeles University Foundation in the Philippines. And he was also an advisory professor at Tongji University and Shanghai University in China. So he is also a professor, besides being the banker, etc. That's a fitting that's a fitting welcome to Dr. Lohani. So, a warm round of applause. Dr. Lohani, the stage is yours.
Well, thank you very much for the very warm introduction. It's nice to be here, Professor Tomiko. When you say something, we always do it. So thank you for asking me, and I did it. I will do it. I hope I'll do it to your satisfaction, which is a challenge. Ronnie Tay, thank you very much for being part of this. Mr. Jeshan, thank you for sponsoring. Lin Heng, thank you very much for taking care of us this morning. When I was asked to do this one, I felt very passionate because 28 years in the bank and 10 years in my academic days when I was just environment that time. I got interested and passionate. Then when I started putting the slides, I started thinking, should I be broad? Or should I just take one topic and go deep? I could do either of that. I decided to go broad, not knowing what might be the interest of the people. Second, should I be talking more of the past and the present, or should I be talking how the future should look like? Then I said, let me do a little bit of all. And that's why when I started putting the slides, it became 200, but Professor Koh, I think then, I know this, I'm not going to make it in the time given. So I cut it down to half. Still there is a lot, which means I'm going to go fast. But for each of these slides, and I said this with commitment, if you need the data, facts, why something has been said, I have it. And I'll be happy to share to the deep academicians who would love to do that. I will, therefore, talk these 5 areas. We need to think about Asia in the past. We need to think of Asia today. And we're going to have to think of Asia in the future. So that's what I'm going to briefly cover. Then I'll talk about environment policy in the sustainable agenda, a little bit of the past, a little bit of the present, a little bit of the future. Current status, how it looks at it, and what might drive for the future. How to transition into the future green growth path, new ways of thinking. And finally, the new thing that's emerging in my institution, in my passion, the knowledge management, which is across through everything, and I will do this. I'll do this within the Professor Koh's allocated 1 hour time, and that's going to be a challenge, and stop me if I don't do it right. First, let's look at Asia. What progress has been made in the development in Asia? Quickly, as was rightly said by Mr. Savage, if you look at the last 2 decades, Asia has a tremendous success in terms of creating the wealth in GDP. It also had tremendous success in terms of reducing the poverty, which is the drawing of the on the right-hand side. Just take the one indicator. Poverty has reduced from 50% in 1990 to 20% today as 2010. Never in the history of any country they have done that much, that quick. And if you look at the GDP growth and inequality, but with all the growth that came to Asia, it created a lot of inequality. The rich and the poor, the difference between them has widened. And that is certainly a concern in many countries, many developing countries. So while it has done very well on the economic front, two things didn't happen. One, the inequality. Second, the environment. They really did not put very much emphasis to the environment. And yet I put this slide which shows just one or two parameters that no matter what where we take, except in countries like Singapore or Hong Kong, maybe Japan and Korea, we still can't find a livable city. We still cannot breathe the air in many places. We can't drink the water from the tap, except in a few cities. So these concerns remain. Next, I think we should also be looking at the Millennium Development Goal, which was a 2015 challenge. Couple of things happened in the MDG goal. One, there was a lot of emphasis to alleviate poverty. Look at the lowest denominator for the humankind. And Asia's success showed it did pretty well on the income side. The goal 7, which is famous in the MDG on environment sustainability, was the weakest goal. Many environmental people felt it was not good enough. And to put it quickly in one word, and as I said, I'll go very quickly, the data, if you want, write to me. In one word, we did very good on the income side. We did very good on the water side, didn't do very good on the sanitation side, didn't do very good on the health side, didn't do very good on the hunger. So those our agendas remain. In short, if you look at the whole progress, and we do this report once a year to see how Asia is progressing, the results have been mixed. And when I say countries, it doesn't include Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, and Korea. It's mainly developing countries, and that's going to be the focus. So in other words, the environment sustainability agenda on the Millennium Development Goal was weak. It did not please the environmental community at that time, and nonetheless, they found other ways of doing this. Now, let's look Asia ahead. We did a study, what might Asia look like in 2050? Simple information. If everything goes well, the way things are going now, by 2050, Asia will have 52% of the GDP, which means more than half the world wealth will be in Asia. And we call this the Asian century in ADB. However, this is not given. Under this scenario, you may have $40,000 per capita in Asia, which is a lot, but it is not given. I repeat this because in order to achieve that, we need to do a lot. But to get this to economy, some people say, is it now the emergence of Asia, the emergence of re-emergence? To me, to us, it is a re-emergence. Those of us who remember the 18th century, right after, on the onset of the Industrial Revolution in the 18th century, Asia accounted for 60% of the world's economy before the Industrial Revolution. And then between 1700 and 1950, the Asia's share declined to 15%. Then Asia's share went high after the 1950, spurred first by Japan, then the newly industrialized country, Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Korea, etc. So this is in some way the Asia is re-emerging. But this time around, it is not going to re-emerge with just like that. It has enormous challenges. And some of the challenges we see, mega challenges, I see 6 of them. One, as I said earlier, addressing inequities and disparities. It is not resolved. Go to China, India, Indonesia, everywhere, it's very, very predominant. Second, many of the countries who are developing countries, who are low-income countries, are becoming middle-income countries. And by 2020, most of the countries will become middle-income countries. The challenge, therefore, is how the middle-income countries will be able to not fall into the trap and go to the high-income countries. In the last 2 to 3 decades, we've seen countries already in the middle-income trap. And the countries are asking the question, how do I not fall into the trap? That's another challenge. Third, massive urbanization. You know this. Never in the history of civilization we have seen people moving into urban area like we see it now. Almost 1.6 billion urban people in Asia. And the worrying part to us is 500 million people in the urban areas today are living in slums. So how to turn a city into a livable cities when you have 500 million people living below $0.25 and slums? I think this is a challenge to us, and if nothing is done, our estimate shows we will have these people, 1 billion people in the slums. So enormous challenge of urbanization. The next, this we know, global competition for finite resources. Because of the growth in China, India, Indonesia, everywhere, everybody is looking for resources globally, whether it may be food, minerals, commodities, etc. So this is not in the sustainable part. And the fifth one is disparities across countries and sub-region. We're seeing in Asia, and you see your neighbor not as good as you are. Very dangerous sometimes. If you look at the Indo-China region, Professor Koh and other people remember, they were all at war at one time. Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Nepal, Thailand. The ASEAN has brought them together. Our Greater Mekong Sub-Regional Cooperation brought them together. When the income disparity become wide, it's very difficult to be good friends too. And of course, the most important one for today is the environment and climate change challenge, and our Mr. Saib has already explained. So these are some of the really major challenges. So if we are able to tackle this challenge, we believe the Asia would be able to have this Asian century. Otherwise, the income will come down to about 32%. And today, 32% of the GDP of the world. Today, Asia's GDP is about 28%, which means nothing. We will probably be in a middle income scenario. Now, let me now go back to this, the sustainability agenda for Asia. What is the policy context for environmental sustainable growth? Now, here, I've tried this. If I'm wrong, Professor Koh can correct me because he's got the whole historical memory of what all happened. Everybody remember